This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez. Our guests are two reporters who have been focusing inside the occupied territories in Israel, Gaza, and the West Bank. Mohammed Omar is a Palestinian journalist. Ayman Mohadin is a Gaza correspondent for Al Jazeera English and has been and reported was there in the Israeli attack on Gaza, the only international news correspondent inside Gaza at the time. Juan?
Mohammed Omar, we were talking earlier about the difficulties of being a Palestinian journalist in Gaza, but also, obviously, you're not just a Palestinian journalist, you're also a resident of Gaza. Could you talk about some of your own family experiences? What has happened to your family during this long siege of Gaza by the Israeli forces?
Well, like anyone else in Gaza, the situation is quite difficult. I have had to go through personal challenges. The first thing started by the killing of my brother in 2003, 18th of October 2003 at 7 o'clock. My brother Hussam, who was killed by Israeli snipers by 7 M16 bullets in the Rafah refugee camp in the southern part of the Gaza Strip. My father was in jail for nearly 11 years, and also my house has been demolished completely. All these difficulties and challenges have motivated me to continue and to be committed to a serious journalism and to get the story of Gaza to the world.
And talk about the series of photographs that, well, we're going to show some of them right now. Among them, we begin with the little boy who is in a classroom. Talk about him.
This was in Al-Omariya School. I arrived in the southern part of the Gaza Strip. It was Al-Omariya School. It was English language class, the first class, and I arrived to the area that was about 4 years ago, and I tried to stop one of the children to talk to him of what happened, to tell me the story. All the children were traumatized, running out of the school. None of them is able to explain to me. I remember one of the children, he's telling me, blood. I saw the brain of my classmate here. It's blood shedding everywhere. I don't know. He's running and just scared. Everybody was scared at that moment when two children at Al-Omariya School in the southern part of the Gaza Strip were killed by Israeli snipers. At that stage, I met with this boy, and I admired the courage of this boy, that he kept the last one to be in the classroom, and he was not believing that his classmates were killed, and he just wanted to stay there. I think he was terribly traumatized after this tragic experience of witnessing his own classmates being killed in front of his eyes. That was one of the photos I took in Gaza, in the southern part of the Gaza Strip. This continues. It's not only this photo. There are many photos that are documenting in different parts of the world and in different parts of the Gaza Strip in particular, where I talked about the human tragedy, the suffering of the fishermen in the Gaza Strip, the Gaza harbor, the suffering of the people at the border, Rafah, where they have to wait for many months to get out, to receive their medical treatment, to go to their schools outside, and for those who want to have a family reunion with their relatives abroad. There are many other stories that I have covered during this period in the Gaza Strip, talking about the destruction, the homeless families, the humanitarian situations, shortages of water, electricity, shortages of gas, cooking oil as well, and the shortages of medical supplies. I'm sure all of us and the audience of Democracy Now! Are fully aware of, following the visit of Senator John Kerry to the Gaza Strip, that Israel has declared pasta and macaroni as a luxurious thing for the Gazans to have. This is something that I'm trying to convey during my U.S. speaking tour to all Americans, and to bring them with all these photos and images with the Gaza Strip to tell them the real life of the Gaza Strip on the ground. You know, what makes me this morning, while I'm sitting waiting for this interview, sick to my stomach is just waiting for 18 minutes watching Fox News. I really cannot tolerate how Americans can watch Fox News. I'm just watching, and from the first few minutes, you know what the whole program is talking about. What they're talking about this morning is about a Qatar diplomat who has been attempting to smoke on United flight. And this goes on and on and on and on. There are no real issues that are being covered. Gaza is going through a very difficult time under this siege. The world is observing what is happening in the Gaza Strip. Gaza is not the only place. There are places also in Afghanistan, in Iraq, and many places in the third world where media attention is needed. And here you see Fox News covering a very superficial stories that doesn't serve anything and that doesn't bring any injustices around the world. That makes me really sick to my stomach. And I feel really sorry and sad in the same time that this is the message that Americans are only allowed to see through their mainstream media.
Well, Mohammed Omar, you also took a photo of a fellow journalist, Fadel Shah, who was killed by an Israeli tank. This is especially relevant given the WikiLeaks release earlier this week of American forces in Iraq killing another journalist. Could you talk about the condition that particular day and the photo you took then?
I'm sure my colleague Ayman would fill also into that. I'm fully aware that he knows Fadel Shah. Fadel Shah is our friend, all of us. It was one of the most tragic days, unfortunately, to lose a dear colleague and a dear friend of us. I arrived to this area and it was a very difficult situation. Fadel Shah, the Reuters cameraman, he was filming. As you can see in the photo, the car was clearly marked as TV in English and Arabic. Fadel Shah was able to videotape the missile which cut off his head, basically. And since then, there has been no investigation. Israel declared that it was by mistake at one occasion, and another occasion they denied what happened as usual. It is a very tragic incident at that time. What strikes me in that day, and I remember that very clear, the ambulances were having a difficult time. Fuel shortages that week. There was a lot of fuel shortages, and at some places, Palestinians had to use donkey carts and horses to transfer the bodies of those who were injured and killed at that attack in particular. It was a very tragic moment to see the killing of our colleague and friend, and I am still waiting for an investigation, the results of investigation to come out and to show what really happened, and to bring those who killed our colleague Fadel Shah to justice. And I hope this justice will be brought not only to Fadel Shah's killing, but also to all other colleagues who were killed in the Gaza Strip. That includes also British cameraman James Miller and peace activist Tom Harandel, as well as peace activist Rachel Corrie, and many other colleagues and journalists who were injured in the north, in the south, and the different parts of the Gaza Strip.
Ayman Mohaldin, did you know Fadel?
I did, yeah. I had met him on previous trips into the Gaza Strip. I was not in Gaza on the day that he was killed, but did immediately receive word of what had happened. And it's very tragic. It highlights really what Palestinians and all journalists really experience. I mean, this incident happened close to the Israeli border with Gaza on the eastern side, and every day hundreds, if not thousands, of Palestinian farmers who live in those same areas are subject to the very same kind of exposure that led to that killing, and that's the daily reality of life for Palestinians.